Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Lauren. Today I am going to share the process of making my wedding dress. So I made it in 2023 and I recorded a few things back then thinking that I would eventually make a video, and I thought now that I've got this sewing channel and it's one of the most amazing projects that I've worked on in my life, I thought why not put the footage together and talk about my inspiration and the whole journey. So that's what I'm going to do today. So I thought about this project and how I could make it as simple and straightforward as possible. And I was looking on Pinterest for inspiration, looking at different wedding dress designs and thinking about what would look good. I did go to a bridal shop to try on some dresses just to see what style would suit me. I went to one bridal shop just to get a feel of the style that I wanted, but then also to check out the different materials that the wedding dresses were made of, whether I wanted something that was a bit stiff and structured or if I wanted something flowy and with chiffon and softer fabrics. So that was a really good thing for me to do in the beginning, to test out a few designs, and then it was easier for me to decide what kind of style I wanted after that. I was looking on Pinterest. I thought maybe I could have something that doesn't have a back. I was really attracted to bows, also to sleeves. Then I decided to test out a pattern. So I looked for summer tops that I could kind of turn into bridal tops using bridal fabric. The whole idea was to create a top that I could potentially wear in the summer, but then also create another version of it that was more formal, because I didn't really want to waste the projects that I made or waste fabric or anything. I started with this little white top. I thought it was going to look okay, but then when I made it, it looked a little bit gapey at the back, and I didn't really like the fit. And then I also realized that I wanted something that showed a little bit of my chest, and so I thought, okay, maybe that's not the style that I want. Then I moved on to this other top, which is the Tudor blouse, and this one was a good choice because it had a variety of versions. I went with the one where the wrap is at the front, so that meant that it wrapped around my body at the front, it showed a little bit of chest, and then I could tie it in a knot at the back. That turned out really well, and so what I did was made that version out of linen, and then I actually showed my fiance and was like, what do you think of this top? Like, just to kind of gauge what he thought. And he gave me a really good response. So I was like, oh, okay, then that's a good sign. Like, if he thinks it looks nice, then that's good. And then I moved on to looking at the different fabrics that I could use for this top. I'll share a little bit of footage there because I can't remember what my creative process was at the time, but luckily I recorded it. So I'm going to share that little snippet. This is a sample of the lace that I've ordered. So that should come this week, hopefully. And it's like a big floral print. I know you can't see it right now, but on Etsy it looks really pretty. So I'm thinking to put this on top of the satin top here. Obviously it's going to be white underneath, but yeah, maybe this could be one option. Another option could be these spots, which I really like. I feel like the spots are really classy. The spots will be the sleeves, and it's obviously going to show my skin through, so there won't be any satin for the sleeves. It's just going to be this tulle type fabric. And yeah, I'm not sure if I did go with the spots. I'm not quite sure if I'll add the spots to the front as well. I feel like it might be a little bit overkill, but I don't know yet. That's why I've bought both of these options, because I just want to see what one feels good once I make the first draft of the sleeves. I created like a satin version of the top, but then I realized that it's quite slippery on the inside because I've doubled the layers here. It's really slippery and it just kind of slips off me when I try to put it on, and I want it to be secure, so I've decided to still do satin, but on the inside I'll just use the rough side of the satin against my skin so that it's not so slippery. I did experiment with a chiffon bow, but doing the hem on this was really difficult. It took forever, and I'm already going to have to do that on 2 layers for my skirt. So I'm thinking that I'll just stick with a satin bow, and I don't know if I really like it. So yeah, I think I'm just going to stick with this simple knot here, but it's going to be in satin. So the embroidered tulle that I ordered from Etsy arrived, and I spread it out on my bed just to see the overall pattern, and it was an easy decision for me. I straight up went with the floral print. I still have this spotted tulle in my stash, so maybe one day I can make something with it. I was happy using the floral print. It really inspired me, and it was similar to this picture, so I just went with it. So an update on the top for my wedding dress. I have sewn all the pieces together. It's looking alright. I tried it on and it fits my body. It's feeling pretty good. So this took a little bit of time. I have a layer of tulle and then satin, and then at the back I've got a lining fabric. So there was like 3 layers in each panel really. So 3 layers in this back piece, the side piece, and the wrap version. The only thing that doesn't, oh no, this does have 3 layers. Yeah, I've got 2 layers of satin here, front and back, and then I also put a piece of lining fabric, like this fabric, on the inside because I didn't want it to be too see-through. You can kind of see the seams, but because it's satin, I haven't been pressing them down with the iron because I'm worried that I'll burn it. So I am just going to let it be like more of a soft bow. I'm not going to iron it too hard there. Same with the tulle here. I don't want it to be too flat. Like I ironed the back lining, but I didn't want to put too much heat on the tulle because I was worried that it would damage it. But when it's on, when I wrap it around myself, I stretch it out anyway, and it sits nicely against my body. So yeah, so this is the wrap. So it goes like that. I've got the darts here, and yeah, that's how it's going to look at the front. Obviously a little bit gathered. Once I wrap it around, it looks a little bit more textured. And then on the back, I've just continued with the same pattern. So all around it's the same with the tulle, the satin, and then a lining underneath. I'm kind of glad I did this. Originally I was thinking to just do tulle and have it like see-through so you could see my skin behind the tulle, but I felt like the seams would be too visible and it might feel rough against my body. So I ended up just covering everything with satin and tulle, and I feel like it's going to look good. Now I've got to attach the sleeves. So I've created 2 sleeves here. I have done the gathers for the top of the sleeve, so that's going to be like attached to this bit, and there's going to be gathers there, and then at the end I'll put some elastic in there and have gathered sleeves at the bottom, gathered hems I mean. So yeah, this bit's going to be transparent, so you know, like when it's on me and it's wrapped, it's quite like you can see a bit of my chest, which is nice. And then I think the sleeves being transparent, that should be enough skin, I think, for me anyway. So yeah, I've got 2 tulle sleeves to sew on next, and if I don't like it, then I'm going to try a different material for the sleeves, but I have a feeling it's going to look good, and I'm feeling pretty positive about it, so I'm going to just go with it. For the skirt, I wanted something that was high at the front and low at the back because I wanted to wear a statement shoe, and I really liked this idea. I didn't want a train that was too long because I wanted to be able to kind of pull it up, create a bustle for this, and have it up so that I could dance freely and I didn't have to change or anything, and I could run and, you know, walk around without like worrying about people stepping on my dress. So I only found one bridal skirt that I was happy with on Etsy, and I tested it out and I was really happy with it. So when I made this mock-up, I got so excited because even though it was made from scrap fabric, when I put it on, I started tearing up, and it was just like such an emotional and exciting experience. And yeah, I was really happy with it. So I kept that pattern. I only tested one pattern for the skirt. The skirt is like a high-low skirt, so the back of it has a short train. I didn't really want a long train, so I went with this, and it looks really good on. And again, this is just the first draft, so there's definitely going to be some adjustments, and I'm going to obviously use bridal fabric. It did the job just so I can get an idea of the look and feel of the skirt and if I liked it on my body. I'm going to maybe make the band around here just a tiny bit shorter. It's going to be like a little bit more stable as well. I'll add some interfacing there. And for the skirt fabric, I'm thinking I will do satin and then 2 layers of chiffon fabric on top, so it just has this nice flowy look. If it's a little bit see-through, I'm hoping it's not with these 3 layers, but if it's a tiny bit see-through, then I might wear like a petticoat kind of thing, or I could attach lining to it later, but I don't know. We'll just see what happens. But that's my idea so far. So yeah, I know it doesn't look like a bridal dress, but it's gonna. Before I started making the skirt, I had to think about what kind of fabric I wanted for that. I did want it to be flowy, so I decided to go with a satin and then have a chiffon on top. And I also needed to have a lining fabric because it was a little bit see-through with just those top 2 fabrics. So it was actually 3 layers. So a pongee lining, then satin, and then chiffon. And it was all ivory, which I was really happy with. There was a moment where I thought I would have to do satin and then 2 layers of chiffon. The lady at the store recommended that, but I'm actually really happy that I didn't do that because chiffon fabric is like a nightmare to work with. So it made sense for me to just have the 1 layer of chiffon. For the bustle, I was experimenting with over bustles and under bustles. I thought that the over bustle would be best at first because it just seemed very straightforward. I could just pinch a certain section of the dress and pin it up, like up high near my butt or up near the waistband. But I didn't want to put any holes or attach anything on the outside to the skirt. I didn't want anything to be visible on the outside of the skirt when it was down. I bought 2 different safety pins, bridal safety pins from Etsy, and yeah, but they just added beads and things, and it looked cute and I liked the idea. But then when I bought it and received it, I tested it out, and it was putting a big hole in the chiffon fabric on the outside, and I just didn't like that. It also didn't really hang well. It was kind of looking really heavy and just kind of sagging, and then the bottom of the dress wasn't draping as nicely as I thought it would. So I ended up going with an under bustle. I used like an invisible fishing line thread to attach the chiffon to the satin so that it was kind of acting as 1 layer. And then underneath the satin, the first bow was there, or the first tie was there. So this is the bustle for the lining for the bottom layer. So I've decided on the spots where I want the ties to be. So I've put a tie up here and then a tie down below, and then I've lifted it up and tied those 2 ties together. And I've done the same for the middle and then another side section as well. So I'm really happy with the way the bottom layer looks. I think this is good. It's definitely off the ground, so I don't feel like that's gonna be stepped on or anything, even with my little boot heels that I'll be wearing. So that's looking good, and now I just have to do the top layer, which I've got hanging up there. I think I'm pretty set on where the center ties are, but yeah, I'm gonna start experimenting with the 2 top layers, which I've sewn together as well. I put like a little tiny stitch in here so the chiffon and the satin stay together, and then I've just put a tie on only the seam, like the seam here for the satin layer. So on the outside, I'll just show you. On the outside, I'm hoping that you don't see this stitch that I've put in. So it's this tiny little stitch in here, and I've only sewn the seam allowance. I don't know if you can see that. I've only sewn the seam allowance of the chiffon, just there, that seam. I've sewn that to the bottom layer with a clear thread. So yeah, you can see that it's connected, but you can't see any stitching on the outside, which is good, and I think it's barely noticeable, you know. So yeah, when it's down, it's going to be fine. And it's also nice to see what the bustle will look like. So there's going to be a little bit of volume around this area once everything's tied up, but I think that's all part of the look. So I've just safety pinned some ribbons here for now, just to see where I want the actual ribbons to be. And got 2 layers happening. Oh, the first layer is the top 2 layers, which is the chiffon and the satin, and then the bottom layer is the pongee lining fabric. Right now I'm just kind of playing with like where I put the bows and just seeing what looks good from the outside as well. At first I thought I only needed 1, but I actually need to have probably 3. So 1 over here a little bit and then 1 over here, because when I tried it on it was still too long. And I've measured the mannequin here so that, like, as if, you know, it's the height I would be with heels, but it's still a bit too long, and I don't want to be stepping on this because I have to wear it a second time when we have our second wedding in Australia. So I've safety pinned another, just to show you, another one in here for now, but I will have to sew these bows, which I have just finished making. So there'll be 2 to come together on this side underneath, and then 2 on the other side. I was also experimenting, thinking that maybe the buttons would help, but I feel like they're not gonna be as secure, and I want these to be tied, you know, double knot. I can stitch over them so that it's really attached to the dress and make sure that it's super strong. The dress isn't really heavy. It's like, I mean, it's got a bit of weight at the back just because there's a lot of fabric, but it's not as heavy as, you know, some wedding dresses. So I think having 3 ties should be enough. This side is looking alright. I think I might just have to make it a little bit higher because I think it's better to be shorter rather than longer. It's also a high-low skirt, so I think it'll look nice once the train's up. So you can see, like, at the front it's higher, so you'll see my boots, and then at the back the train will just like be a little bit lower, but yeah, it'll be tucked up so that it's safe and not going to be stepped on. And yeah, but it's looking good. I mean, that's from a distance, and it's super flowy. I'm really happy with it. And yeah, I had a little bit of an issue with the zipper because I did have to take it to a tailor because I made it a little bit too big and I wanted it to sit more high-waisted to make my legs look longer. So I took it to a tailor, and then they made it smaller around the waist, but then they also wrecked the zipper. I don't know how this happened, but I had to replace the zipper when I got home because, like, it wouldn't zip. It would just, like, get stuck here, or it would go all the way up, but it would get stuck coming down. So yeah, I just put a new one in, but I think I'll need to go over it again just because it is an invisible zipper, but you can still kind of see it. But then again, like, the fabric kind of covers it a bit, so maybe I can also get away with not doing that. But other than that, like, there's been no real dramas. Like, I would say it was just the whole zipper thing. Yeah, but I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out. I need to press it. I'm a bit worried about ironing it. I don't know what the best way will be yet, but we'll figure that out later. For now, I'm just going to drape and see what looks good, see, yeah, how short it needs to be, and then go from there. It worked out really well. I was like, wow, like that was probably one of the tricky parts, like organizing the bustle, and I was really proud of myself with how I did it. Like, I was like, there weren't many tutorials on YouTube for that, and I was like, okay, how can I do this so that it's not obvious? You can't see the ties from the outside, but you also can't see any kind of like stitching from the outside either. I was just really happy with how it worked. I was like, wow, like, I actually, for a moment, I was like, I'm a genius. And then when, like, it was all tied up, it just looked so elegant. It was like a princess vibe, you know, it was just so elegant. And when I danced, it just looked really beautiful. It was flowing nicely, and it was like well and truly off the ground, which was great. No one was stepping on it. So it's getting a bit dark here now because it's been a full day project putting this together. I also wanted to just touch on some of the issues, or maybe the main issue that I had. I did touch a little bit on the zipper issue back there, but the main mistake that I made was hemming the chiffon on my own with using my domestic machine. So I was just sewing away. It was like so much fabric. It was a full circle skirt. So I don't even know how much, but it was like a rolled hem. So it felt like this process would just take forever. And while I was doing it, it just felt like it was never ending. And it turned out that my machine just couldn't do what it was meant to do. Like I tried to do about half of it and realized that it just wasn't folding evenly like when I was doing the rolled hem. So I ended up having to just unpick everything. Not just me, my husband as well. He sat there with me for 4 hours while I listened to an audiobook. He was watching Netflix, and the two of us spent 4 hours unpicking my mistake. So I'm so thankful for his help, because it would have taken me double that time. And oh my gosh, lesson learned. So I took it to the tailor, a professional, and he rolled the hem up for me without any issues. So I was super thankful for that. So that was the main issue. And now I'm going to just share some photos of how it all looked in the end. And yeah, I just think it's the most amazing project that I've ever worked on. I'm super proud of myself. And yeah, if you have any questions, if you want to make your wedding dress, let me know. If you need some tips or you have any questions at all, I'm here to support you with that. I will link all the patterns that I use and where I got my fabric, and anything else that was that I mentioned in this video. I'll link it in the notes below. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching, and I look forward to speaking to you next time.